during interesting times, or possibly the world is too much with us, or maybe I am just too much of a news junkie, or this sort of post-COVID world is different, is more stressed, tense, anxious, hyper alert, sensitive, vigilant. It makes every day feel momentous and filled with important happenings. It makes us susceptible to FOMA, fear of missing out, and it makes us sensitive to changes in our environment, in our expectations, in our circumstances. It can also make us weary, not sleep-deprived weary, but soul weary, heart weary, spirit weary. We are in need of a collective transfusion, it feels to me, a transfusion of courage, of confidence, and of hope. One of the ways in which we might care for our spirits and infuse them with ease and comfort is by taking our breath to breathe. Excuse me, just 1 minute. So let us find our meditative places and our meditative positions, sitting, standing, lying on the floor. Whatever works for you and whatever gives you that ability to both turn inwards and to be alive, nevertheless, to the experience that hopefully will happen as we just focus, as we just concentrate on breathing. So let us soften our gazes, close our eyes, feel the totality of our bodies wherever they are in space, possibly sitting in a chair, most likely sitting in a chair, with our feet planted firmly on the ground, with a certain attentiveness. And let us turn our softened gaze inward and try to release those places that might be held in attention, held in certain kind of stress or tension. So for me, for many of us, that would certainly start at our temples with the release of our foreheads, try to take the creases out or just release them, let them go for right now. We could unhinge our jaws, which are often held tightly in place, frequently with grinding teeth as a source of tension, stress, anxiety. Not a source of, as a manifestation, excuse me, as a manifestation of what we might be feeling. We move through our bodies and soften our necks, perhaps by giving them that circular motion that just says, release, release, you work so hard, release. And we could roll our shoulders backwards. We could roll them forwards. We could just be aware of our upper arms, our elbows perhaps, our lower arms. Just move them lightly, move them easily. Release our wrists, our hands, wiggle our fingers, let them lay in our laps comfortably. And let us think about all that is going on inside, where our lungs are. We will attend to them in just a moment. But certainly, let us let go of our tummies, of our abdomen, of our hips. Let them just be. Just be. Our thighs and our knees, we could We could wave our legs back and forth a bit from the knee hinge. Think about releasing our calves, twirling our ankles perhaps, putting our feet back on the ground and wiggling our toes, digging them into the sand. I think that's such a comforting sensation for those of us who have had that experience. And then let us just take a deep breath of which we are conscious. We've been breathing all day, but let's pay attention. And we breathe in. And just the sensation of that fullness coming into our bodies. It just feels good. There's something magical about concentrating on the breath. We breathe all the time. What it does, though, is that it anchors us in this moment, right now, right here. And that is part of the goal of the meditative process, is to put us here where life is happening. Not yesterday, that's gone. Not later this evening, it's not here yet, not even tomorrow. But right here, right now, with consciousness, with focus, with attention, with what we call mindfulness. So we breathe in. We might linger there for a moment with our breath filling our bodies, and then we let it go. And we let it go in whatever way helps us just to stay with the breath. It's an exercise. It's a practice. We're practicing living in this moment. And we just notice. We notice the breath. We do what we can to keep ourselves anchored to it. How does it feel? Where does it go? Is it cool? Is it warm? Is it going all the way down to our toes? Is it filling our hands? And what about letting it out? Do we do it all at once in one big swoop? Do we savor the sensation and let it out slowly? And then at the end of it, let us just remain empty of breath, seemingly empty of breath, for just another few seconds. We might even count them until the impulse comes to breathe in again. Other thoughts will come into your head. Try to just let them go. If they are important enough, they will return. And if they aren't, it was nice that you stopped by. You breathe in. Pay attention to our bodies that feel full, that feel buoyant, vibrant even. Our chests expanded a bit. I think so often during the day we breathe shallowly. We breathe certainly reflexively and just by nature, thank God. But depending on what's going on in our heads, I think our breathing probably reflects it. Sometimes it feels so good just to take that deep breath and stay with it. I came across a short article this week entitled, "Beware the Certainty Trap" by Christine Emba. She bases her article on the work of Ilana Redstone, a professor of sociology at the University of Illinois, who formulated the concept of the certainty trap, meaning the tendency to treat our values, principles, or beliefs as inviolable. As Professor Redstone has said, it is what gives us the satisfying sense of righteousness we need to judge harshly, condemn and dismiss people with whom we disagree. It is what gives the certainty trap. It is what gives us the satisfying sense of righteousness we need to judge harshly, condemn, and dismiss people with whom we disagree. I think it's a great definition. Certainty in some areas is natural, even essential, and helpful. For example, night follows day. I'm certain of that. If I drop something, gravity will cause it to fall to the floor. That's not so comforting, but I know it's going to happen. 2 + 2 = 4. We need a degree of certainty just to get up in the morning. As the professor continues, however, when it comes to heated political debates, the certainty trap holds us back and puts up walls. Oh, I am so sorry. I thought this was off. We need a degree of certainty just to get up in the morning. As the professor continues, however, when it comes to heated political debates, the certainty trap holds us back and puts up walls. Paradoxically, those issues where we feel most threatened by disagreement are the ones where we most need to be able to talk with one another. As Emba points out, an oversupply of certainty blinds us to the fact that the things we care most about tend to be the most ethically and morally complicated. And if we want constructive dialogue and mutual engagement on the issues that matter, or even to persuade others to come to our point of view, being too certain just holds us back. Professor Redstone concludes, ultimately, we don't have to abandon our principles or our values. We just have to be willing to hold them up to the light and examine them. One way to think about avoiding the certainty trap is that it's less about answering questions than it is about generating them. I really appreciated this article and this way of thinking about conflicts of opinion and even world view. We have heard too many times, and we know from our own experience, that we are living in a divided time, a polarized, oppositional, antagonistic time. It's part of our soul weariness, this seeming inability to cross divides of opinion, to find common ground, and to speak civilly to one another. When Redstone affirms that avoiding the certainty trap is more about generating questions than answering them, she is invoking the meditative process of approaching any kind of difficulty, conflict, or ambiguity with curiosity rather than with judgment. It is the process that suggests to us a gentler way, a more open, accepting, tolerant way towards ourselves, our loved ones, our friends, acquaintances, and others. To approach them with curiosity, not with judgment. It is the only way to learn the heart of another, to be truly curious, and to listen to the response. It is out of that respect and care that we might be asked in return for our views and the reasons for them. Otherwise, we will continue to build walls of rigid certainty that will never encourage dialogue and the honest exchange of opinions. Even with the approach that Alana Redstone is suggesting, we still may not break down the walls, but at least we will have tried, and perhaps we can begin to soften those walls just a bit. There are very few things in this world about which I am certain, but Judaism is one of them. As I shared with you last week, I am quite certain of the beauty of Judaism, its joy and wonder, its mission to elevate all of life to a higher plane and a higher purpose. I am also quite certain that we have been created, B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God, as independent, autonomous, self-determining creators in our own right. Every one of us is created in the image of God, lovable or not, neighbor or enemy. We must treat every human being as we would treat God's image. The philosopher and Jewish theologian Abraham Joshua Heschel once asked, "Why is the Torah so concerned with idolatry?" You might think that it is because God has no image, and any depiction of God is therefore a distortion. But Heschel read the commandment differently. No, he said, it is precisely because God has an image that idols are forbidden. You are the image of God. Every human being is God's image. But the only way you can shape that image is by using the medium of your entire life. To take anything less than a full, living, breathing human being and try to create God's image out of it, that diminishes the divine, and that is considered idolatry. You cannot make God's image. You can only be God's image. In the ancient world of kings and slaves, of all-powerful emperors and human beings that were regarded as not much better than beasts of burden, the Jews proclaimed a different vision, an all-inclusive, all-encompassing vision of humanity, every single individual as being of infinite worth. It calls us to boundless respect for each human life, a valuing of human difference and individuality, and a commitment to fair and decent treatment for each person. That there are evil people in this world does not change the premise. As beings created in God's image, we have free will. And with that free will, we can subvert every positive possibility into evil purpose. We have been given every possible tool to live lives of goodness and worthiness. It is the eternal challenge to make that reality, to make that a reality for every child of God. So let us return to our breathing for just a few moments. The breathing of those who have been created in the image of God. And certainly, there is a contradiction between our breathing and any conception of God because God does not breathe. And yet in the Torah, we speak of God breathing life into God's creation. And especially breathing life into humanity. I think of meditation as a way of breathing heightened life into our selves, into our beings, into our bodies. It is concentrating on bringing the most basic life force into us. And the invigoration and energizing that happens from that simple act. You might find yourselves relaxing around your breathing. Stay with the motion. Stay with the intention to focus on it. Stay with the thought that an image of God is inhaling the breath that God has created. I hope you will continue this process just on your own and return to it at some point every day. To conclude today's session with thoughts regarding our lives and the mystery of our lives, I turn to Mary Oliver in her poem entitled, Don't Hesitate. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give in to it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. I hope you will find moments of joy this week and that you will luxuriate in them and that you will not be afraid of them. And just take another respite from whatever your life is up to and enjoy it. Joy is not made to be a crumb. Be well. Stay safe. God bless.